So last week I showed you guys how to do stiletto nails. This week I'm going to show you how to do a coffin nail. I already have my nail form applied to my finger in a stiletto shape. And something really quick that I wanted to mention is that for those of you that are doing nail forms for the first time, or even if you've been doing it for a while, a lot of people go for lining up the tabs, and that's what they focus on. But that doesn't always mean that it's going to be the perfectly straight C-curve. So here I lined up the tabs on the bottom of the nail form. And if you look at the top, the line that's supposed to be in the center starts in the center in the free edge area, but as we get to the tip, it starts to curve to the right. So I want you guys to focus on keeping the center line in the center as you close the form, rather than focusing on closing the tabs and lining them up. So from the free edge of my natural nail to the tip of the nail form, I have that line in the center, and the angle of my nail form is also really important. So I want to make sure that the tip of the extension I'm going to make basically lines up with the cuticle area of the natural nail. That way I'm going to be able to create a nice thin extension. And if we drew an imaginary line out, it would be a pretty straight line on the bottom with room to build an apex on top. So this will help me keep it thin at the cuticle and the tip, and then put that additional product where I need it. Okay, so I already cut all my notches. I've got my form applied, and I did get a request to use a pink gel this time so that people could see it a little bit better on camera. So I'm going to try that this time so you guys can see. I wanted to mention that I don't normally use pink gel. I prefer to use clear, because that way when I file off the color or the art and the client comes back, 2 or 3 weeks later, I can see their nail bed. So I'm able to do a visual check on the health of their nail through that clear gel. Whereas with pink, I can't see the nail bed as well. So I usually use clear for everything, at least as my base and my structure, and then I use gel polish colors and nail art colors on top. But I will use pink today so you guys can see a little bit different color on the nail. I'm going to do a wet layer throughout the whole natural nail first, and then pull that down onto the nail form. I like to do one layer just all the way down first. It just helps everything kind of blend as I build the extension. And I do already have gel on my natural nail, so that is why I'm not doing any base or bond or anything. I'm just applying this pink gel right onto the gel I already have. So I'm going to create the extension just like I did last week. I want to basically get a nice even coating from my natural nail out onto the nail form. And I am using a thicker gel today, so you'll notice I have to finesse it and work with it a little bit more. So what we want to do is make sure that our real sidewall of our natural nail connects to the extension that we're creating, and that we have a nice even coating all the way down from the real nail to the tip of the extension. So I'm just going to make sure that I completely cover my real sidewall, make sure I have enough product in the corners, and then draw that line out on the nail form towards the tip. I use just a sketching motion to pull the gel where I want it to go, and then just kind of smooth it out, make it as even as possible. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better what I'm doing. So just barely making contact with the gel, and just kind of finessing it so that it's in the areas that I want it. And then make sure you have enough product right where the free edge of your natural nail meets the nail form. Now on the other side, we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to make sure that the real sidewall of our nail is completely covered, and that that gel extends out to the tip of the shape and length that we're creating. So just kind of use a sketching motion, lightly moving the gel, and it will follow your brush if you just make contact with it. Okay, so I'm going to flash cure this for a few seconds. I'm going to scoop off just a little bit here to make it a little bit more square. I'm going to flash cure it, and then I'm going to pinch it so that I can tuck in the corners of my real nail. Okay, so I'm going to take my tweezers and I'm going to put them right where the gel meets my natural nail. I'm just going to gently squeeze. Don't go all the way up into your actual fingernail. You'd want to stay right where the gel meets the nail form. If you over squeeze on your nail bed, you can actually damage your nail bed. So just squeeze gently right where the gel starts to touch your free edge. And then you can squeeze down the nail form and really tuck everything under. One last squeeze, and then I'm going to fully cure this in my lamp for the recommended time for this gel, which is 30 seconds in LED. Okay, so now I'm going to remove my nail form. I squeeze right next to the gel, right there, and it just releases from the nail form, and I'm going to pull the nail form down. That way I'm not going to hurt myself or rip off my extension. And you can see that we have the general length and shape that we're looking for. So I've just got the extension, but I have the sidewalls covered and I have the length that I want. And now I'm going to fill in the rest with a thinner gel that self-levels, and now I can build the rest of the body of the nail. So it's okay if these swoop down. It's better for them to be lower. That way you're able to file and line everything up and everything is covered properly. Okay, now I'm going to take a slightly thinner gel. This one self-levels, and I'm going to do a wet layer over the entire nail from cuticle all the way down the extension. Make sure you get the sides. And this wet layer is going to really help the next dollop of gel to self-level. So this is going to eliminate a lot of finish filing for me. So just make sure you have all the nail covered with some wet gel. And now I'm going to build the apex and really make sure that this nail is smooth and even. I'm going to put a big dollop and just barely touch it to the nail surface. It's going to automatically connect with the gel underneath it. And then I'm just going to walk the gel down, concentrating it in the center. Don't worry about going all the way down the side. Just put it in the center because it's going to want to self-level anyway, and it's going to start sliding down. So just leave it alone, and as soon as you see that it's properly placed, stick your finger right in your lamp. Okay, so I've got this nail fully cured. I have an apex where I want it, which is awesome. And I do have that transition of product all the way to the tip. Now remember, the nail needs to have enough product on the apex to withstand wiggling and pressure on the tip of the nail. And because we pinch the nail, it's going to have a nice tight C-curve, which is going to make this nail very strong, even though it's going to be nice and thin. I'm going to cleanse the nail and take off the uncured product on top, which is known as the inhibition layer. It's the tacky, sticky layer on top. And I want to be cautious to pull away from the finger so I don't get uncured gel from the surface up on my skin. Now I'm going to file the nail very similarly to how I did the stiletto. I'm going to start on the sidewalls of the nail first. And I'm going to take off this bulk and make sure both sides are really nice. And then I'm going to go underneath and make sure that this is all straight and perfect. And then at the very end, we can do the tip and make it square because a coffin nail has a squared off tip instead of a point. Okay, so starting on the left sidewall, I'm just going to get rid of this bulk here. And then I can do the other side. Now I've got straight white sidewalls with no bulk. Now I can turn my finger and do the actual underside of the sidewall. And I like to turn my hand so I can see what I'm actually filing. So I want to line up my real sidewall where my real fingernail exits my finger, and I want to blend that into the tip. Use your nail file. It's a straight edge, and it's going to allow you to create a really nice straight sidewall. Just keep filing till it's nice and straight, and then turn your finger and do the other side. Okay, so using your file here, make sure everything lines up with your real sidewall and then extends out to the tip in a straight line. Both sides look really nice and straight. If you see any little belly or anything, you can always go back and take a little bit more off. And I do like to use an emery board when I do this because I can get a little bit tighter in there. This is a very firm one. It's 180 grit, so I can really get nice and tight without accidentally cutting myself. Now, when I go through the body of the nail, I do like to use a moon file because I can go through the cuticle and the sidewalls. And the spongy material makes it a lot easier to file the surface. I'm just gonna go through starting on the one side in an upward motion. I'm gonna go around the cuticle area very carefully, blend everything out, avoid the apex because we wanna leave that thickness of product there for strength. And then I come down the other side and make sure that that is nice and refined as well. Now, a coffin nail has a squared off tip, but I like to wait and do the actual end shape or free edge shape at the end once the nail is chalky, and then I can see everything. So just keep going through until you're happy with everything. And be very cautious about filing underhanded like this. You want to make sure you're not creating a notch on the side. Okay, so now I'm going to go through the surface of the nail. I want to avoid the apex, so I don't want to file like that. I actually want to put my file on the rest of the nail and go through to smooth it out towards the tip. So as you see me file from the top, that's what I'm doing, is trying to make everything kind of a bullet, nice and streamlined towards the tip of the nail. Some people call it like a dolphin nose. It's just supposed to be really smooth and refined, and everything comes like a bullet towards the tip of the nail. So I'm avoiding the apex because I want to save that strength in that product. And I look at it from all angles to check for bulk on the sides, make sure I have that product concentrated down the center like a mohawk. And I've got just that nice streamlined sidewall. Check it from down the barrel as well. And now I've got this nice smooth transition. If you want to go lightly over the apex just to chalk it out, you can. That just makes the whole nail nice and chalky, and that way you can see what you're doing. But just be very cautious about filing the apex because we don't want to take off any product. It should blend nicely and it should be concentrated. The sidewalls also should be about the thickness of a credit card. So by the time we're done, if everything's done properly, your sidewalls and the tip of your nail should be about the thickness of a credit card. And that really comes down to the way that you place your form and the angle. And now that I've got this nail chalky, I can do the tip and make it into a coffin. So a coffin nail has a squared off end that's perpendicular to the nail. So now you can go through and make it squared off. I like it when it's really tapered. Some people like it when it's a little bit wider. So you would just vary that depending on how you apply your gel and how you apply your nail form. And then look at it from the other way, especially if you're working on a client. Make sure that it looks square from their perspective as well, because everyone's nails are a little bit crooked. So you want to make sure that from the hand perspective, it looks perpendicular and squared in the right direction. Look at it from, including all the bones of the finger, not just the fingernail, and just make sure that that's nice and perfectly square. You can also file upward to make it really nice and sharp. Filing upward kind of helps to make square nails extra square. Okay, so I've got my coffin shape, squared off end. I've got straight sidewalls. I've got the concentration of product. And last but not least, I want to check that my sidewalls line up on both sides. So very carefully, you're going to put your nail file up underneath and make sure that those sidewalls meet up and they're perfectly straight, not crooked. So you can file like this. Just be very cautious that you don't make a notch back here towards the free edge of your real nail. You want to make sure that your nail file is nice and straight and that you're not digging into the product where you can't see it. So as you line up your sidewalls, just be very careful. And that's why I tell people, don't file underhanded like this because you're usually going to end up making a notch in the nail. You end up with like a little L-shaped notch. So you really want to turn your hand so that you can see what you're filing. Make sure you're not creating any little divots that you didn't intend. That's why I turn my hand all the way to the side, line up my nail file, and that way I can see what I'm filing. I get laser straight sidewalls with no notches. And so when you file underneath, just be very cautious. Okay, so I've got my nail dusted off, finished filing it, and I'm gonna apply some glitter this time. I haven't done glitter in a while, so I feel like glitter today. You could also finish this nail with top coat if you wanted to just leave it builder gel pink, but I'm going to use this silver glitter by Estemio that I just think is really, really pretty. So starting on the bottom half of my nail, I just coat the whole tip, and then I can go closer to the cuticle area. Painting the tip of the nail first really helps everything blend nicely. And then just make sure you cover everything carefully from sidewall to sidewall. And then last but not least, just double check that you don't have any hump of product on the tip before you cure. Okay, I'm going to apply my second coat. I can get a little bit closer to the skin this time, make sure I get really close to the sidewalls without touching. But the second coat is your opportunity to just make sure that everything's perfectly opaque and really nice and tight and clean. I do wrap the edges a little bit as well to make sure that those don't have any exposed product underneath. I want to make sure the color wraps evenly. And again, just make sure that you don't have anything touching. Peel back the skin, make sure everything is nice and clean. And then you can cure. I'm going to use the Estemio Basic Top Gel. This one can be used with literally anything in the line. It has a nice black bottle, which is pretty. So I'm just going to apply a nice thin coat of top coat. Again, if you have any little areas that are bothering you, you can use your color or your top coat to kind of fix those as you go. But I'm just going to apply a nice thin coat. This nail is nice and smooth. And I'm going to watch my line of light and make sure that everything looks perfect. Also, I kind of look at it down the barrel, make sure I don't have any hump of product on the sides, hump of product on the tip. Just make sure it's nice and clean. And then you can cure in your lamp for 30 seconds. Okay, so after you're done curing, you're going to cleanse the nail. Make sure you really scrub it. It should be squeaky clean. That way you're going to get all that tacky layer off and your nail's going to be nice and shiny. I've got that awesome line of light. Even through the glitter, you can see that I've got that straight line of light, which means this nail is perfectly smooth on top. And I'm going to finish this nail with some cuticle oil. With longer nails, I like to put the cuticle oil underneath the nail first, moisturize the skin under the nail, and then I go around and really lather some cuticle oil on here. You can do a little dot or a drop, or you can put it on the nail surface and then rub it up into the skin if you don't want to contaminate your cuticle oil. Mine doesn't have a dropper, so I just brush it on. Rub it in. I usually do a lotion massage, hot towel, you can do paraffin, anything you want to moisturize. And then right before the client leaves or right before I'm done, I take a clean wipe and I'm going to buff that oil into the finger and remove any excess. That way they're not goobery fingers and they'll look really nice in pictures. All right, guys, so that is how you do a coffin nail. You guys already know how to do square nails, you know how to do stilettos, you know how to do coffin, but you can see it's very similar to a stiletto. It just has a squared off tip, same style of straight sidewalls, same style of arch. It's just got a nice refined tip on it. Everything looks nice and clean, but we've got the squared off end and we still have that mohawk of product down the center. Everything looks almost like a stiletto, but with a squared off tip on it. If you want to refine the shape one more time after all the product application, you can do that and dust it off, and that'll just make it razor sharp. There you have it. Awesome coffin nail. I will show you guys how to do almonds next, and stay tuned for another awesome video. Thanks, guys. Bye.